Bonjour! My name's Angela Berry and I'm a French teacher with the Toronto District School Board. In this video, we will examine how to create effective learning cycles for junior, intermediate, and senior students. For most of the history of our public education system, it was very important to go to a physical school because that's where the information, the teachers, the books, and all of the learning opportunities were. Now, with the pervasive influence of smart technologies and the internet, we have more information than we can process at the touch of a fingertip or a swipe. With all of the information available at our fingertips, knowing is no longer the goal. Students must be able not only to find information, understand it, analyze it, discuss it, but also use it. We owe it to our students to teach valuable critical thinking skills so that students not only can identify problems, but also find the information and think critically in order to solve those problems. One of the goals of our education system is to create a well-prepared work-labor force. With the entirety of human knowledge doubling every 13 months and accelerating, who knows what the next generation of workers will face? Babies born today will be entering the workforce in the year 2040, so we must prepare them to be globally minded, critical thinkers with a good sense of citizenship and collaboration. The changes in our society are forcing us to reconsider what education is, what the role of the student and the teacher is, and what success means. This is more than a band-aid solution or a fad. This is a real pedagogical revolution. So let's create a list of best practice by asking the question, what creates effective learning for students? First off, effective learning cycles are authentic and personal. We all know that students are engaged when they're learning about something that they like. But learning topics don't have to be just about students or what they like. It is important for us to help them understand their social identities and their effect on their local and global communities through social justice. For example, I have chosen the Syrian refugee crisis. It's important to create a rich guiding question to pose to the students in order to connect all of the various ideas we will be studying. You can pose the question directly to your students or you can create it with them. It helps to start the question with how might in order to ensure that it is a rich, enduring question. Rich tasks allow students to show various strengths and skills. They are more accessible for different strengths and easy to differentiate for different needs. Whereas tests usually focus on knowledge and understanding, rich tasks demand students have a foundation of knowledge from which to analyze, inquire, and create. Rich tasks ideally use at least 3 of the 4 sections of the achievement chart found in all of the curriculum documents at the same time. For this task, I chose that students would present their understanding of the Syrian refugee crisis at the monthly Character Education Assembly with a follow-up poster campaign. Now that I have a guiding question and a rich task, I can find lots of curriculum ties through various subjects. The Syrian refugee crisis is perfect for examining number sense and numeration. We're looking at large data and the concept of what a million really looks like. We'll be tracking that data across Europe and looking at different charts. I looked to the grade 6 math curriculum in the number sense and numeration section and immediately get overwhelmed. There are so many specific expectations and so many subjects to cover, it feels like I'll never finish anything. Fortunately, the language says, by the end of grade 6, students will. Of course, we're going to teach students about all the different specific expectations, but we do not necessarily have to evaluate on every single one. Teaching, assessing, and evaluating are very different things. We don't have to evaluate every specific expectation. We only have to evaluate the overall expectations by the end of the year. The ultimate goal of affecting change in our community to help the Syrian refugees requires many steps in our learning from different subjects. We will identify what large numbers are up to 1 million and represent them with concrete materials. Students will then choose a statistic from our learning about the Syrian refugee crisis and represent that number in both a concrete way and in a ratio. They will justify their choice of statistic, why it's important, and why their representation is effective. The social studies curriculum perfectly lends itself to examining a complex issue such as the Syrian refugee crisis. Not only will we look at what is already being done at an international level, but also the impacts that it will have on Canada and our own government and communities. Students will decide what they can do as individuals in our society to help the refugees. They will produce a public service announcement poster campaign to promote the idea to a Canadian family audience. We can choose one idea from the class to try and do with the whole school. Because we are learning so much complex information, it is important to anchor our understanding into a series of learning goals to promote an enduring understanding that our students will carry with them for a long time. Learning goals are posted in the classroom and are visibly accessible to all. They are referred to often and help students with metacognition. They help teachers and students alike remember why we are learning what we are learning, and also to link what we learned yesterday to what we learned today and what we're going to learn tomorrow. Effective learning cycles aim to engage students at every stage. This does not mean that we always have to make everything into a game or watch videos all day long. Instead, we look for meaningful ways for students to share their voice and to own their learning. Instead of getting the students to do something because we say so, or consulting them on a superficial level, we should be aiming to consult with them and to work with them to learn together. This means that we have to let go of some of our control. Students may want to go in a direction other than you thought, and you have to be willing to support them in that, as long as they can back up their decisions with good evidence. There is no right or wrong answer. There are only different solutions with different points of view, but all are equally backed up with critical thinking and facts. Whoa, what about the curriculum? Teachers are still in charge of making sure students learn certain things. Although we want to promote student voice, teachers need to plan very specifically different skills students need. We still need to ensure that students learn all of those specific expectations, even if we don't evaluate them formally. They also need to know all sorts of soft skills that they're going to need to put together for their rich task. Many teachers find it handy to create a unit planner. I like using this unit planner because for each skill, it has a plan for the gradual release of responsibility. The gradual release of responsibility is the process by which information and skills pass from the teacher to the student. A lot of the time, we tend to go from I show you, now do it. It's important that students have a chance to collaborate and to practice and fail and learn from their mistakes. When we're examining the human impact of all of the mathematical data, I need to make sure to provide opportunities for students to collaborate, to reflect and discuss using images and videos. If I want students to be able to analyze and use infographics to manage data, then I need to not only model the criteria that make infographics effective, but also provide them many examples to discuss in groups. When students are developing their individual strategies to help with the Syrian refugee crisis in our own community, they need to see examples of what types of solutions are already happening. And finally, when we're examining the criteria of what makes an effective public service announcement poster, we look at various examples, even if we disagree with the solution. Most of the learning our students do for the rest of their lives after school is in collaboration with others. It's important for us to model positive collaboration during the learning cycle for every skill and piece of information. During this process of the gradual release of responsibility, we must make sure to assess constantly. Don't freak out. I know you have enough work. We all have marking to do. Take advantage of alternative assessment methods like individual or group conferencing, doing a band show where you compare work as a whole class, traveling from one group to the next where students analyze each other's work, and informal discussions. During this learning process and with all of your valuable feedback, students will begin the process of metacognition. It's important for teachers to model types of questions that students can ask themselves during the learning process in order to improve. Making learning visible using process walls and anchor charts help students look at their progress over time. Last but not least, it's important to have an authentic evaluation that students learn about early on during the learning cycle and in which they feel comfortable and safe to discuss their progress. In accordance with Growing Success, the 2010 document guiding Ontario assessment, evaluation, and reporting, we want to ensure that our evaluation is authentic using a rubric. To make a truly effective rubric, ensure that only components from the curriculum are being evaluated. Timeliness and neatness are learning skills and don't belong on a rubric. We all know that rubrics are way too complicated for our students, so that's why we use success criteria to put what we are evaluating into student-friendly language. I also like to remind them of our learning goal. This project is available in its entirety on my website under the planning section. Although much of my website is dedicated to French language instruction, there are many good resources under the planning and technology sections. Please feel free to visit anytime and contact me through my website. Wishing you courage, creativity, and change as you embark on this adventure with your students. Bon courage!